coin later, but right now it's not. All right, Jen. So over there, they're talking about. I asked Samantha O'Keefe. She was at SASH in year 1 and 3, formerly Samantha Lebaski. She's going to be talking to them about marriage, motherhood, a little bit of femininity, and then open it up for questions. So I figured we would do the same here. So I asked. Oh, come on in, Bo.
We'll be talking about femininity and motherhood?
No, we're not.
Okay, good.
We're going to be talking about masculinity, fatherhood, pursuing your vocation, all that stuff. And this is Dan Evans. He is a parishioner here. He has his own business. For some weird reason, you decided to do that. He is also a father and a husband. And so we thought we would kind of break it out, guys and girls, because keep it on us, Noah. All of you, not all, but many of you, one day may be husbands and fathers, hopefully in that order. And so we wanted to kind of just do the same thing, but on the guy side that the girls are getting right now. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments and discussion. So, Dan, take us away.
Yeah, sounds good. So, gents, a little bit about my backstory. Went to college here at Virginia Tech. After growing up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, commissioned from there, joined the Navy, right? That's kind of where I want to start today before we get to the Q&A section is entering life as a dad in the middle of naval service. And then one story in particular that really stands out to me as far as like being a highlight of being able to be a truly masculine Catholic man and a witness to others that didn't have that in their life, right? So 8 years in the Navy, served as a surface warfare officer, also known as a ship officer, right?
Oh, there it is.
My favorite tour was being a navigator on my second boat. So I answered directly to the captain, took the ship all over the world, quite literally, to include in and out of dry dock, which very few navs get to do. On that, right, I had a division of about 10 quartermasters that also worked directly for me. One of them was particularly gay, right? She was a service member. And I've served alongside of a lot of LGBT or gay service members who were great human beings, but a little bit lost and confused, right? And pretty universally, they all had a similar backstory. Some man in their life, be it a brother, a friend, a father, had failed them pretty miserably, right? So in this experience, right, I was one of the first male figures that A, she has to report to, but B, that she started to grow pretty, respectful about, started to really ask me a lot of questions about the faith. Well, it was during this particular assignment that my wife Morgan and I had our first miscarriage, right? And not only did that happen, and it was pretty hard on me and hard on the family, right? And hard on, trying to figure out how to be strong, but also vulnerable. I had to go underway with the ship the day after it happened, right? And as a nav, you can't just be like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Like, you're the guy responsible for safety of the navigation and the crew. So I brought the quartermasters together, right? I had just a heart-to-heart with them. Like, they could tell I was noticeably upset, right? They didn't really understand why I was gone the day before, so I filled them in. Hey, this thing happened with our family. We believe life starts at conception, right? I have now lost a child that I was really looking forward to welcoming into the world and into our family. But we need to do the mission today, right? I'm not on my A game. Like, this is hard for me. I have faith in God that this happened for a reason, and that there's going to be good that comes of it. But in the moment, like, I'm kind of hurting, right? Look out for me, team, right? I'm not on my A game. Give me that backup, right? Make sure that you're helping me fill in where I can't today. But ultimately, we're called to do a mission, right? It's our job to get the ship underway and get the ship out into the world, right? And we can't let life stop us from providing and protecting and doing the things we need to do. And I could see in that moment through that conversation, right, in that vulnerability, but also that confidence and faith that I was portraying, that resonated particularly with that gay sailor, right? This was the first taste she had ever really gotten of true masculinity, right? True strength, true humility, vulnerability, right? But without being just stupid, right? Without just being a bumpkin, right? So that was a really awesome part of my naval career and something that I never thought I would have like as an ability to witness to others on, and kind of where I want to leave that story with y'all to simmer and sit with as we move into the Q&A side of this. So without further ado, Chris, back to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of similar. I have a military background. I went to the Marine Corps right out of high school, and I wasn't sailing on ships. I was playing an instrument, and so I was a band geek all the way. But I can say that if I could go back and slap myself silly at that age, it would be great, but I can't. So I was on a different path. I liked partying. I liked doing all that stuff and making poor decisions that really affected me, although it doesn't seem like it does it in the moment. But life can be long, and then memory stays with you. So I wasn't embracing virtue. I wasn't. I kind of knew the faith was true in my heart. I understood. I believed it. I would even go to church sometimes, but I didn't. I had fallen into this idea that life is all about having fun and doing what I want to do, and so that's actually pretty self-destructive. And so I did that for a while, but I ended up getting married young. I was married at 21 and a father by 22. Wasn't really good at either one of them. Luckily, I married a saint who actually, challenged me and encouraged me to do better. And so that's kind of the complementarity of marriage, where she challenged me, and I had to face my own demons. I had to face those things, and so over a couple of decades, probably, I had to work through all that, and then develop the habits that I wished I had developed when I was your age, right? You hear that all the time. When I was your age, well, you're your age now, and now's the time to set the groundwork for how you want to be as a man. Because if you don't do it now, it comes back worse later. And I can only tell you this because I know. All right. So, and I kind of say that because, like, think for a minute. Maybe you are called to marriage, which is a vocation, right? What kind of father do you want to be? What kind of husband? That's the first step. The vocation is marriage. Having kids is a fruit of that vocation. So what kind of husband do you think you should be? Like, what are the qualities that a husband should have? We don't see many good examples of family in today's society because they're being broken apart, and that really, really hurts us. When families are split or a mother and a father is not in the home, we need both fathers and mothers to help form us as humans. So that's a question to let yourselves think about. What kind of man am I going to be? When or if you have children, what values are you going to impart onto them? What example are you going to set? Because that's going to be a huge thing. That your children are a mirror, right? They will show you very quickly, and like, oh, I better get my stuff together pretty quick, otherwise I don't know what this kid's going to turn out to be. And we have, as men, I think, an impulse to want to give good things to our children, right? Like, we want, but not just like, here, have ice cream every day. I want to give the gift of leadership and character development and, being with my kids to my kids. All my kids are grown now. I mean, my youngest is 17 and he's going to be out soon, but, what groundwork do we want to set to them? So I didn't do so well as a young man. But luckily, and I give credit to my wife and to the Holy Spirit, and the fact that, like, he kept slapping me upside the head, where I was able to make some other choices, but do the hard work of changing and building other virtues and habits that actually are, good for me rather than self-destructive. So, I guess we can. Do we want to open it to Q&A or do we want to go back and forth a little bit here?
Either way, what do you all want to do? Does anybody have questions so far?
Give me a minute. I need to think about it.
Sounds sure. Good. So while you're thinking about it, right? Others are thinking about it. Going back to that point, what kind of man do you want to be? Right? It's easy to say I'm going to be a boss, right? I'm going to be, self-employed, right? I'm going to join the military, right? But for lack of better terms, when stuff hits the fan, right, when life gets hard, right, that's when you're tested, right? When someone asks you to go against your moral compass and say, hey, just do this because nobody's looking, that's when the kind of man you want to be gets the opportunity to shine, right? Or quite frankly, when the rest of the world is telling you have to do or whatever, and it's detrimental if you don't, that's your opportunity to stand the line and say, no, this is wrong, right? There is a good, there is an evil, right? Your kids see that. Others around you see that, right? You become that witness. And in a lot of ways, as a man of faith in particular, right, we're called to that self-sacrificial love, right? Sometimes that means, hey, I'll give up something of mine so my kids can have that treat. It could be that benign. Sometimes it means standing in front of someone and saying, no, because I love you, I'm called to tell you that what you're doing is not okay, right? Even to my own detriment. So without having that moral compass, or without really thinking through or like knowing what the truth is, right, it's really hard to stand that line and stand that ground and defend it, right, to become that man that you actually want to be. As a parallel to that, right, none of us are on an island. There's however many, almost 50 of us in this room, 20, 30 of us in this room, right? The times in my life where I have struggled the most is where I tried to do everything myself, right? I tried to take the burden of the world on my shoulders, right? Or I was suffering with something and I didn't share it with a friend, right? Or didn't share it with my spouse, right? That's where we're challenged the most, is in isolation, right? Men in particular are not called to be this unfeeling, just single, juggernaut type human being. No, we all have flaws, right? In fact, quite the opposite, right? My division on the ship, my friends here locally, right? The church community as a whole, we are called to be in community with each other, right? To have your band of brothers that can challenge you and they can call you to the carpet and they can help pick you up and then push forward and say onward, right? God wills it, right? But he wills it together instead of making you feel like you're alone and afraid and you're ashamed to tell anybody that you're struggling. Not. We're all gonna trip one day, right? Having those comrades there to help extend the hand and say, hey brother, you got this, right? Confessions every week and like 6 times on Sunday, right? Let's go together and then let's move forward, right? That's an awesome thing. So those would be 2 more parallels that they would offer, right? Like, know what kind of man you're going to be, know what the truth is, right? But also like be prepared to step into the battlefield, so to speak, right? Especially when it's not favorable or it's not hard, and don't do it alone, right? Have your battle buddies there that share that vision of truth and that are willing to stand alongside you as you toe that line.
The following statement is for some reason controversial in today's society, but I'm not going to risk it. Men and women are different.
Like why?
I know. Seriously? No, but like not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. Like, men experience emotions like different than women. Men have different charisms or attributes to our masculinity, right? Physical strength. Again, it's not controversial to say that men are on average much physically stronger than women, and sometimes that strength also goes to an internal sense too. Or like when we, like Dan was saying, there's this weird there's like this duality. Some people say men should emote similarly to women, or that we should not emote at all. Neither of those are true. We are more capable of sometimes compartmentalizing, because in a battle situation, if him and I are in, we were both in the military, so if we're both in a fighting hole taking fire and one of us is cowering in the corner crying because we're overwhelmed, then we're absolutely useless. So we need to be able to set that aside in that moment to do the right thing and to be brave and to defend each other and fight. That doesn't mean we don't experience it later. We like, I think where some men get stuck is they leave it compartmentalized and don't kind of work through it later. Mm-hmm. But we're still able to experience things and feel them, but just in a slightly different way. Sometimes, guys, we need to be quiet and internalize for a while. Maybe we're not ready to just talk about what's going on right away. Like, I know for me, I like to go outside and just be by myself. I'm not ready to just talk about it yet. And my wife would be like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'd be like, "Hang on, I just need to think about it on my own." And then after a while, then I can come and I'll talk to her, or like talk to a friend or whatever. But there's this kind of weird expectation about how either men need to be as emotional or not as emotional, or to experience and express emotions similarly to women, and the way that's fine for them, or to not at all. And there's a balance in the middle of how we experience these things. I
think a kind of a funny example of that, right, is women often like to talk to each other, like they like to be extra social, they communicate, right, a lot more emotionally feely, like touchy-feely oriented. men were providers, we're protectors, right? We solve problems. And so, when you're talking to a spouse or you're talking to a woman and they just want you to listen, right? Sometimes that can be really hard because we're trying to figure out how to fix it, right? Oh, you presented me with a problem. My whole role in life is to solve problems, right? But, having to figure out, hey, that's not necessarily what she's looking for out of me right now. I just need to sit here and nod my head and say, yes, dear, right? Whereas you tell a guy about a problem and then it's an instant brainstorming fest. How do we fix this? How do we make the world better, right? And they just sort of get it, right? Or we just, if it's not a problem to be solved, then half the time it's like, well, I don't need to talk about it because it just is, and I'm just going to embrace that challenge in my life, embrace it with others, but there's nothing to be said, right? Like, this just sucks. We're just going to deal with it, right?
Did you ever see the YouTube video about the nail?
Yeah, the nail sticking.
Just in case, to illustrate what Dan's talking about, there's this video of it's this YouTube video, a man and a woman, they're obviously married or something, and they're talking, and the woman has this nail sticking out of her forehead. And she's sitting there and she goes, I just feel such pressure in my head. And it really hurts. And the dude's like, you have a nail in your head. She goes, why won't you just listen to me?
It's like,
I want you to hear me. And he's like, okay. And then she keeps going. And it's just this excruciating pain. And I don't know where it's coming from. And he's like, you have a nail in your head. Stop, you're not here. It's funny. It's just illustrating just kind of the difference in how we react. And both of those things are good. We hear a lot that masculinity is toxic and that masculine traits are not good, but it's intentional how we're made. We're physical. Men like to challenge each other through competition, trying to sports are a great example. We're trying to see who's better physically and you look at the pre-K boys, they're all trying to build the highest tower. Competitiveness, aggression, energy, those are all things that are good. Yes, can they get out of hand? Because I don't believe in toxic masculinity or femininity. There's fallen humanity in where we all sin, but we all have our traits that are good, and so when we channel them in a way that is, helps us grow as people and serves others, then it's a good thing. Even the way we talk to each other, guys will be direct. Hey, that was a terrible job you just did. We'll be direct with each other. When, sometimes in more mixed company, I really like the way you tried to express this one thing here, but I think there may be room for, no, dude, that's terrible. You know what I mean? And it's not personal. It's not I'm not attacking him as a person. It's just, oh yeah, here we go. Let's fix it. So.
Yeah. The genders are designed to be complementary,
yeah.
Right? So to your point, right, that we need the women in our life, mothers, sisters, wives, right? They provide a perspective in areas that we don't see every day. That's a good thing. And in return, we do the same for them. Sometimes you need that tough love, that blunt love, right? Sometimes you need that rock, right, that you can lean on, or that problem solver that can come help you work through something, right? But having too much of one or too much of the others, not really healthy either for a community, right? You need the balance of both.
And I don't know about you, but there are times in my marriage where I've said to my wife, or where I know that she's struggling with something, or maybe with a social situation or something, and I just say, no, we're staying home. And I'm making that decision for us. And then later, or I say, no, you're not feeling well, you're staying home. And not in an authority, I have authority. It's no, I'm using I'm loving my wife and protecting her right now. And there's times when she said to me, you need to relax. You need to take time and
you need to chill out.
You need to chill out. And both of those things are good, right? There's been times when my wife has, had some stuff going on with certain friends, and I said, I am going to communicate with those people from now on, and you're blocking them. And then later on, she's like, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. I didn't know how to get out of that. Cool. And then she stepped in for me. Just in the same way, you gotta chill out, dude. Getting a little high strung, and that's the complementarity. I think it's awesome.
So we've talked a lot. Does anybody have questions or experiences in your own lives that you want to hash out a little bit?
How would you define a man?
How would I define a man? As far as physically or
Everything.
Masculine?
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Well, so a man physically, right, has certain gender parts, right?
Right.
We're born with an XY chromosome, right? There are only two genders, period, dot, right? God created male and female, both in his likeness and image. As far as masculinity goes, right? Like, we are called to be the providers, the protectors, right? We are called to be the strong ones in a lot of sense, right? But we're also called to be men of faith, right? Men in service to God, right? That self-sacrificial love, just as Christ did for the church, right? Giving of myself, right, for the benefit of my family, my community, the others around me, right? That doesn't mean you have to live a horrible life, right? But there's a lot of freedom, and quite frankly, there's a lot of joy, right, in providing for those others. That's what we're inherently built for, right? And when you live up to that vocation, right, you live up to that call, you find the true freedom that Christ wants for each and every one of us, right? You feel fulfilled, and I am doing what my soul calls me to do, right? And when you shy away from it because it's easy, I want to shirk my responsibilities and play video games. Yeah, it might feel good in the moment, but at the end of the day, you're left hungry for something more, right? A bigger adventure, a harder challenge, right? It's just not quite enough, right? You know it, right, in your core, because that's how God made us, right? For the challenge, for the hardship, for the self-sacrifice, and to be fulfilled in that pursuit, right? So to me, that's masculinity, right? Like, we can have emotions. We're not unemotional or like retarded human beings, right? Sort of the two like spectrums that society paints men as these days, right? We have personality, we have emotions, right? Like, but we're also called to be that defender, that protector, that voice of reason in a lot of ways, right? Especially against society that wants us to do anything but that.
And as far as like, we talk about strength. Not every dude is same level. There are guys that can, the strong men can, they're deadlifting thousands of pounds. You don't have to be super athletic. You don't have to be like, maybe you don't have to be super tall or whatever. Like, but we can work on strength, in our own way, physically and also mentally and spiritually. I think for masculinity, since we are made in the image and likeness of God, and God is a Trinity, He made us specifically to mirror attributes of God. So God is a father who gives, who is the initiator of love, right? So men actively initiate, right? We initiate for our families, we provide, we protect, and we become the best men that we can. It's I was thinking, and I think I said it in a talk last year, by both sexes becoming the best of their men or the best women, that inspires us also. Like my wife inspires me to be a better man, and I hope that by becoming a better man I can inspire my wife to become a better woman. There's reciprocity, there's complementarity. So I'll say men, the as protectors, because protector, provider, leader, all those things, we become this by conquering. If we're protecting our family, the first thing we're protecting them from is ourselves, right? Because all of us are fallen human beings. You're not toxic because you're male. You're a fallen human being just like me, and we have ways and weaknesses. So we protect our family by making those weaknesses so that they're not going to hurt our family, either by our own selfishness or our anger issues or our own wounds that kind of we might project onto our families. And so by working on that, or even if struggling with impurity, that's good. That is destroying millions and millions and millions of families. And it's not just men, that's a human issue too, but a lot of men do struggle with that. So working on inner strength to protect you right now, if you're going to get married, your future wife is out there right now, and you want to be able to love her in the fullness of in being a reflection of God the Father. The moment you say I do, even before that, if you're going to commit your life to someone, we want to work on the interior first. You look like you want to say something.
Oh, you're on a roll.
No, it's good. But yeah, so it's an imperative. We're working on it. So I guess the question is, how? I'm saying, well, we got to work on it. How do we do that? How do we work on that? Yeah, John.
You manage the way that you carry yourself.
What does that mean?
Just like the way you act, the way that you talk, the way that you live your life, like you first we want to start out is like with spirituality. Like you want to start by going to mass, and you need to realize that like Christ gave himself up to you. And with marriage, like what it is that like you're giving yourself up to the other person. So you need to give yourself up to God so that you can love your spouse better.
Nice. Carrying yourself. Do you also physically?
I mean, yeah, that can work too.
Stand up straight, roll your shoulders back. There you go. There you go. That's perfect. That's all. That's just physical. This starts physical, but we're physical creatures, so sometimes what we do on the exterior influences the interior. Stand up straight, roll your shoulders back, look people in the eye, and speak clearly.
Use your command voice.
Yeah. If you're in the military, you work on that. You stand there screaming, but those are just basic things. Keep your head up. Everyone thinks guys are dumb. We can't do anything right. That's absolute BS. Absolute BS. Now, of course, yeah, we all have our own issues. Some of us struggle a little bit, but that's in the long run. It's okay. So good. How else do we form ourselves to be men? To be the men that we want to be? What are the habits you want to start now? Yeah.
Following Christ's example in the Bible.
What does that mean?
It means, okay, camera right. It means, I had like a whole thing and then I got distracted by the camera.
Shiny.
Give me a minute.
Okay. John.
I think it adds to what Noah was starting is you want to live how Christ lived and love others because you show to your family that you're a loving person. And you just show to other people that you're a loving person. They'll see that you're a loving person as well.
Good.
I mean, let's talk about that a little bit too, because I hear that buzz phrase all the time, live like Christ did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what did Christ do, right? Like he went out into the public and he proclaimed the truth, right? So to my story with the Navy, right? Like I was unapologetic. I was the Catholic officer, right? Now I didn't shove it in people's faces, but when they asked me, yeah, this is what I believe. This is what I believe is right and wrong, right? The shipmates I served alongside knew that I didn't agree with their lifestyle, but I treated them like a human being, right? I treated them like a brother or a sister that I cared about, right? Even though we disagreed on lifestyle, right? And that was very apparent, right? But I got to be a witness in a certain way of this is what the truth looks like, right? This is what being a man in its true sense looks like in a way that I've never seen before, right? That's powerful for a lot of people, even if you're in their lives only for a short time, right? They remember. The other aspect is like, what did Christ do in the temple? He literally flipped tables over in anger, right? There's sort of this like perception that like, to be Christ-like is to be meek, right? Is to be just like merciful only.
Excuse me, sir.
Exactly, right? And not really justice seeking, right? But Christ was both. He was both merciful and he did a lot of great works and he did a lot of miracles, but he also served justice in a lot of ways, right? Particularly
That wasn't very Christ-like.
Right. Well, I mean, like quite literally it was, right? So sometimes we are called to action, right? And sometimes we are called to deliver justice, right? But we're called to do that through the lens of mercy as well, right? We're called to do that through the lens of the Christian faith and being unyielding and calling sin for what it is, right? But then calling the human person, right, back to God through our witness.
You said sometimes we're called to deliver justice. How do we discern when that's God's calling versus our calling? You know what I mean? Like how do I know when it's God telling you to deliver justice versus me wanting to deliver the justice?
Yeah, so I'm going to use my own kids as an example, right? My kids want to do things all the time that are not good for them, like spiritually, physically, right, emotionally, right? Dad, I want to eat only ice cream. Yeah, that's not happening, right? So part of that is mercy, right? Like I am saving you from the stomach ache you don't realize you're going to get, right? But then part of that is also justice. When you treat your mother like trash, right, you get Dad's just anger, right? You've now violated my wife, right? Your mother. That is wrong, right? And there are consequences to that.
Right.
Right. So, part of that is like not necessarily my will alone, right? I'm not disciplining them because I'm just mad and it didn't matter. And disciplining them to show them like there is a right and a wrong and there is a consequence to sin, right? A spanking from me that gets them to rethink life and recalibrate themselves back to being more Christ-like, right? Being more respectful of humanity, right? And the dignity of their mother, right? it like forms them in a way that when they get older, right, they don't do those things that are even worse or have worse consequences than just having to deal with dad, right?
Right.
So same too when you're dealing with friends, with family members, right? If you're just like, whatever you want to do, it's fine, right? And you never give them the tough love of like, no, the path you're on is wrong, right? Like you are basically headed down the stairway to hell, right? Like I don't want that for you, right? Like I can't make that decision. Everyone has free will. I can't stop you, but I love you enough to tell you that the path you're on is not a great path, right? And it leads in damnation, right?
Mhm.
That's a tough conversation to have with someone that you care about, right?
Right.
It takes some guts, right? It takes some confidence. They're probably not going to be like, oh, that's cool, right? They're going to be hurt, right? But that's better than allowing them to live a life that does conclude in damnation, right? If that's truly what we believe, right? And so being there and say, hey, I love you, man. I love you, gal, right? Like, but this is not the right path. Like, part of that is justice, right? And is being charitable, but is being firm. Go ahead.
So I have a lot of gripes with men in modern times, and in history. But something that I think is not often brought up is the fact that anger is a cover emotion, usually, for the most part, unless it is righteous anger, which is what Jesus experienced. So we should be like Jesus in that, for instance, he was righteously angry at the people in the temple because they were, once again, as he said, turning into a den of thieves. But anger is more often than not a cover emotion of other emotions, whether that be shame, embarrassment, whatever that may be, a feeling of being not good enough. Men are generally, men like to do that. Men like to be angry, and society tends to accept men being angry. They say, oh, that's just the way men are. That's where a lot of the stereotypes of toxic masculinity come from. So what can men do to look at what they are doing better and to see what they might be angry about? Because this is a very big issue.
I mean, a couple different things there. All emotions are from God, right? So, like, anger in and of itself is not inherently evil, right? Embarrassment, right, is not inherently evil. Shame is not inherently evil, right? They're often sparked because of the fallenness and brokenness of humanity, right? We do things counter to God's will that make us feel shame. But that shame is your conscience telling you you're not doing it right, right? It's trying to call you back to a path, right? Now, living in shame, right, not doing anything about it, not answering that call back to righteousness, that's where we get kind of stuck, right? Or that's where we can manifest other emotions that try to mask it or hide it or whatever, right? Or you try to feel isolated, right? And I don't accept the shame, or I don't try to go to confession, right? Like, I don't respond to it in a positive way. Yeah, it can be very dangerous, right? Not listening to the internal emotions. But what I would also say is, like, as part of that self-reflection, right? Your examine of conscience every night, or when you're sitting down to think, how did I run my day? Was I the man I was called to be, or did I fall short? Right? Something that's really helped me was thinking through, like, in the moment, like, am I mad at someone else, right? Or am I mad because of, like, something that I know to be morally true, right? Like, is this me and my fallenness, or is this emotion sparked because I'm deeply passionate about that person, right? Or about loving God, right? And kind of looking at, am I doing this for the sake of the other, for the good of the other? Or am I doing this selfishly because it just makes me feel whatever, right? And so when I find myself just getting frustrated or getting angry, right, at my 2-year-old who doesn't really know better, and I take that half a second and be like, he doesn't get it, right? Gee, how must God feel about me, a grown man, when I do things that he knows are not good for me, right? And this 2-year-old doesn't even get it yet, right? Like, sometimes you just have to take that breath and say, like, you know what? Like, God's teaching me a different lesson here. Yelling at my 2-year-old's not going to fix anything, right? This is really something I need to work through, right? And God's showing me, like, how he must feel about me, right? But he loves me anyway, right? I need to love my 2-year-old anyway, right? and kind of just take that breath, or just tell my wife I need a minute and go cool down for a second, right, and then come back and look at it more rationally. I find the same thing true when I'm dealing with peers, right? Like, am I yelling at them because I just want vengeance, or I just want I want to stick it to them, right, and show them that I'm right, or are we having a heated discussion because like this is morally a good thing to have, right? Like that I care about them as a human being, and I'm sad or I'm angry or I'm frustrated that they're not getting like the bigger picture, that I'm trying to save them from something else, some worse harm, right? So again, like taking that moment to reflect, am I doing this because it makes me feel good, or am I doing this because I'm truly willing the good of the other, right? Is a good sanity check as far as like, are we doing this for the right reasons, right? Are we responding to those emotions correctly, or do I need a timeout for a minute to reset and collect myself and not take things too far the other direction?
Earlier, you talked about how, as men, we naturally want to compete with one another. Where do you draw that line of healthy versus unhealthy competition?
Yeah. I guess in any kind of friendship, in any kind of thing, when it starts to be where if we're tearing someone else down and to glorify us, I mean, for real, like there's
Right.
yeah, I won the arm wrestling, like that's just
Clearly, I'm stronger than Chris.
no, but like, but I think part of that competition, because you've heard iron sharpens iron, so men are gonna. I've heard it's you may have heard it said like masculinity is bestowed by a father, and women that can inspire us and help us to our moms, our sisters can help us and inspire us to be to grow into solid men, but we need a man in our life to guide us into that. And so like with competition, yeah, I think it's great because we're gonna challenge each other, and we're gonna talk to each other in a certain way that might seem appalling to our sisters in Christ, but at the same time, if we're doing it in a certain way to help us grow, like it's also instinctual. Like I'm gonna trust you with my life when I know that you're strong and that we've challenged each other. Men also bond through physical action.
And adversity.
Shared adversity and physical, like in boot camp or like in the military thing, in a sports team, after you just had to do 8,000 suicides and everyone's throwing up, next week you guys are so much closer, and that's a shared memory. It sounds totally backwards. Well, that was terrible. No, we actually bonded through that. So,
I mean, like take a second and think about that from your own experiences, right? Like, how many shared experiences of doing something fun do you have like super vivid memories of? Right? Now think about, you might have some, right? Like I have a few that were really awesome, positive. Now think about those things that were super challenging, right? And you didn't think you were going to get through. They really sucked, right? And then think about the people that got through it with you. Like, how vivid are those memories? Right? Like, night and day difference, right? Like, these are the people that I got through some shit with, right? And we came out on the other end, right? Like, those are the guys that will pull you back up, right? They might challenge you and be like, hey, why are you being a weakling today, right?
Right.
But in your core, right, this guy would die for me, right? I can go to him and we can struggle through this together and we will figure it out, right? And then I'm going to go back to the same person next week and be like, hey, bro, why are you slacking now, right? Like, you called me to the carpet, right? Like, where are you at, right?
Yeah.
So that shared camaraderie, that adversity, even like self-inflicted to a degree, builds that bond stronger, so that when you actually get challenged with something meaningful or difficult, right? Or when you get put in that situation where you're called to stand your ground and to stand in line and be a man, right, in its true sense, right? You know who's got your back, right? And you know who your battle buddies are, right? You're not alone. That takes a relationship, though, right? And it takes a relationship with other men to maintain that. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like, that even with my own wife, right? Like, she can't do that the same way that the guys I hang out with do that for me, right?
Oh yeah,
that makes
her merciless.
That makes me a better husband for her, right? But that's a need that isn't necessarily fulfilled by women, right? It needs other men, and that's one of those things that society likes to tell you. Oh, if you hang out with a bunch of other dudes, you must be gay, right? It's another way to make you
toxic.
Or it's all toxic, right?
Yeah.
That's another way to make you feel isolated, right? Having a healthy relationship with other men is awesome, right? Because we do manly stuff and we struggle and we compete, right? But at the end of the day, like I know where my brothers are when I need to get some stuff done and I need some help. Right.
Well, they say that men bond side by side, women bond face to face. And and too, like, I don't know in your experience, like, but after I've gone through some stuff with some other guys, we've done hard physical things. Then we're more likely to connect at a deeper emotional level. I'm not just gonna, like, if I don't know Dan very well, I'm not just gonna go spill all my problems to him. I don't know him. I don't trust him yet. It's by experiencing those physical things together that it almost builds that level of trust where I know, like, we've gone through this stuff together. We've done some things, and now, like, we can chat a little bit. It just kind of comes through that a little bit more physical and holding each other accountable physically. It's good at your age. It's good to be physically building your bodies. To whatever extent you can, because that's it's also good for even like my age. They say, like, if you want to slow the decrease of testosterone as you get older, you got to be working and lifting weights to build muscle. So, like, it's serious. And we get old and testosterone goes down, all that stuff. But, like, at your age, it's good to be building the physical strength and challenging yourself physically and mentally. By challenge yourself physically, that's how we also mentally challenge ourselves. I remember at Marine Corps boot camp, I was 18. I got pushed to a physical what I thought was my physical limit, and then taken further, because what you think your limits are not actually your limits. You can go further. And it helps to have other men in your life to show you, to maybe yell at you or encourage, or a little bit of both, to keep pushing those. But when we work through our physical limits, that's teaching us mental endurance and mental fortitude. There you go, as well. And then when I know I can do those things, I have the capacity to handle the tough stuff. When you experience a miscarriage, or when your kid gets seriously injured and you don't know if they're going to make it, or all the other things that life throws at you. You have where you can get pushed to, and you got friends that you can kind of work it out with.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the other thing that I try to think through, right, is, like, we know not the hour nor the day we're going to be called home. We also don't really know what God's going to call us to do today, right? And so being physically sharp, being mentally sharp, right? Not being drunk in public somewhere, right? Like, not losing your faculties, right? Because you're just out having fun. That might be the day that God puts you in a situation that He called you to try to save somebody physically, right? That He called you to be a witness to somebody that you needed to be mentally present for, right? You're going to see those opportunities, right? Every now and again throughout life, and you're just going to kind of know in your core, like, I'm here for a reason, right? And I need to act as best I can and put faith in the Holy Spirit that I'm not going to goon it up, right? That He's going to take them the rest of the way, but I know that this moment, right, is a moment that I was made for, right? And I need to respond accordingly. You're also going to have those regrets if you weren't ready, right? Mm-hmm. If you were not ready, not just because you weren't physically ready, but because you put yourself in a scenario where you couldn't respond, right? That you couldn't act, or you gave a witness that was counter to what you wanted to be as a man, right? So think through that a little bit, right? Sometimes it's easy to just get carried away and get, off too much on the party and track or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then those opportunities miss you by, or they become, lifelong regrets later. If I had only been there mentally, physically, right? If I had only been present in the moment, I wouldn't have missed that opportunity to be the man that God called me to be. Thankfully for us, like, there's confession, right? Like, there's the ability to pick ourselves up, right? To get back and move forward and to try again the next day, right? Like, that's an awesome thing. So don't beat yourself up too bad, but don't let it happen again, right? Like, be present. Like, that's a good thing that we're called to be as men.
All right, so before we wrap up, action items. What are you going to start doing? And there are a couple things I'll encourage you. Start exercising if you're not already. Get outside. If you don't have to be an athlete, you don't have to be a basketball star or a soccer, whatever it is. Go just start walking every day. Get outside. Start lifting weights or start running. Whatever. There are so many things you can do to be physically active that doesn't involve, like, I'm not really that good at sports. Like, I was terrible at basketball and I try to, but I like to lift weights. That's what I like to do. Find something that's going to move your body, because look, you're at an age where it's awesome. Your body can do anything and you don't even realize it. Well, maybe you do, but not fully. So get active. Cool. If you like playing video games, play some video games. Then turn the stupid thing off and throw it in the trash and set it on fire and go outside.
Whoa.
Oh, that got
escalated quickly.
that got heated. Okay, then two. Go to what Patrick said. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes when we yes, there he is. We sometimes when we don't know how to express other things, our certain emotions come out as anger. If you find yourself doing that, okay, I encourage you every single day at the end of the day, put your phone away, set that on fire too, since we're on a fire streak, and sit for 5 minutes and just look at your day. Be like, and looking at you, not what other people did. What did I do well this day? What did I not do well this day? Maybe look at some of the emotions that you experienced during that day. How did I handle these things? What am I experiencing? Then you're taking those things that you might have compartmentalized back out of the compartment and letting yourself at least look at them. What's going on? It doesn't mean you need to we don't, sometimes we can get caught in constant circumspection and constantly overanalyze every little feeling we have. But when you set aside time to at least look at it, maybe experience it in that environment, you're at least giving channel to it, and where you can look at your day and be like, oh, maybe I didn't handle a certain situation this well. Then you wait, because look, we're humans. You and I are both going to screw something up probably sometime soon. It's the nature of the beast, right? So physical exercise, take every time at the end of every day. If you're not used to praying or whatever, just looking at your day, be like, what did I do well? What did I not do well? Then last thing, I'd encourage you to start praying. I know spirituality and being religious isn't just for women. It's for all of us, and there are ways as men that we approach God. He is a loving Father. We may not have had a good earthly father at all, but when we start to learn to let God actually be our Father, which was something it took me until I was in my mid to late 30s to actually understand that I was loved and that God was a Father. When we start learning and working through that, then we can actually have that channel of the inspiration for who we want to be as a man. So spend a couple of minutes with God. Even if you don't know what to say, don't know what to do, just say, hey, God, I need your help. There you prayed. That's it. Can you help? Can you reveal yourself to me? He'll work with that. You don't have to come in with flowery, whatever, here's this formula I learned, and I will, set a dove free and, whatever, or set that on fire, since we're setting everything on fire. This is going to go Old Testament.
I think Father Pizzano talks about it often, but the simplest prayer of Lord grant me patience, grant it now, right?
That's right.
It can be something as simple as that. When I first started my my own firm, right, my prayer every morning was, God, I can't really see how I'm going to make this work, but I trust that you're going to help me do the right thing for the people I serve and make the money work out for my family. Lo and behold, I'm still here 5 years later, right? So part of that is having true faith, right? Going into work, right? Being a co-creator, right? Going and giving it your best as a man, but knowing that we don't have to have all the answers in the moment, as long as we have the trust that, God, I'm going to do everything I can today, right? Ultimately, you're the master of the universe, not me, right? Let thy will be done, right, over my will, right? And help me respond to that accordingly. It could be as simple as that. So when you're doing your examination of conscience, what went well? Awesome. I crushed it. What did I not do so well? Gee, I kind of fell flat on these areas today, or man, I really gooned this thing, right? Cool. Take that with you to confession next time you go, right? But then make a pact to yourself, right? Or to your accountability buddies if you've got them, right? Hey, tomorrow I want to be 1% better in this thing. Tomorrow I want to spend one more breath before I yell at my 2-year-old, right? Tomorrow I want to go try to be extra nice to that person that I really haven't been all that charitable to lately, right? If you do that every single day, then by the end of a year, you're 365% better, right, than the man you were right now, right? So just that constant improvement, that constant striving, what does God want me for today? What did I do well? What did I fail? What did I fall short at? How am I going to be just a little bit more Christ-like tomorrow, right? Over time, that compounds and it becomes the lifestyle, and then it makes the hard things easier, right? As we kind of move along.
Awesome. So, exercise, reflect at the end of the day, try to incorporate prayer into your life. Easy cheesy. And then that's just the beginning. And it goes insane from there. Cool. Thank you, Dan. We're going to wrap up. We're going to go to adoration, but we'll hang out if anyone has any individual questions. Thank you, gents. Appreciate it.